They thought Earth was fragile, its people fractured, weak, and unprepared for war. But ask the lone alien survivor what really happened, and you'll hear a different story. One drenched in terror. Entire fleets vanished in silence. Weapons meant to shatter worlds turned useless. And in the chaos, humanity revealed something no empire in the galaxy had ever seen before. This book is not just a war story. It's a testimony. The last words of a survivor who watched the truth unfold. Why humans are the most terrifying warriors in the stars. The galaxy had always believed humanity was nothing more than a footnote in the great chronicles of civilization. To the empires that spanned light years, Earth was little more than a primitive world, scarred by its own wars, fractured by endless politics, and bound to a single star. When alien eyes turned toward the blue planet, they saw no threat. They saw an opportunity. For centuries, the Orion Dominion had expanded without resistance, swallowing weaker species, enslaving survivors, and rewriting history in their favor. Their fleets stretched across constellations, their armies shattered planetary defenses in hours, and their arrogance had grown into something resembling divinity. To them, conquering Earth was less a challenge than a formality, another red mark on a map of endless stars. But even empires built on conquest can make fatal mistakes. The humans were not prepared, not in the way the Dominion believed. Earth had no interstellar fleets waiting beyond the moon, no hidden superweapons buried under oceans. What humanity had instead was far more dangerous, though no alien could have seen it. An instinct forged through countless ages of survival, an adaptability so fierce it bordered on madness, and a will to endure that no calculation could measure. The first contact was not a greeting, it was a massacre. Without warning, Dominion warships darkened Earth's orbit. They arrived not with the elegance of explorers, but with the cold efficiency of predators. Cities fell beneath orbital strikes. Satellites burned like fireflies in the night. Billions awoke not to the dawn, but to fire raining from the sky. Yet in the ruins, something stirred. The survivors of the first wave were not paralyzed by fear. They were galvanized by it. Soldiers and civilians alike discovered in themselves a raw defiance, a refusal to die quietly. Resistance cells formed in the smoking rubble of cities. Engineers stripped old satellites for parts. Farmers turned harvest equipment into weapons. What the Dominion dismissed as chaos was, in truth, a transformation. And somewhere deep beneath the ruined streets of New York, a message pulsed into the void, humanity's first desperate broadcast to the stars. It was not a plea for help. It was a warning. The Dominion listened. They laughed. To them, the words of a broken world meant nothing, but the humans were not speaking to the Dominion. They were speaking to anyone, anywhere, who dared to listen, to remind the galaxy that even in ruin, Earth still had teeth. Among the Dominion, the arrogance grew. Commanders spoke of the invasion as a test of efficiency. Generals wagered on how quickly resistance would break. The fleets pressed harder, grinding humanity into ash. But the Dominion soldiers, those who walked the broken streets and fought the humans face to face, began to whisper. They whispered of ambushes that defied logic, of humans who fought even after their bodies should have failed, of traps laid with cunning so alien to Dominion strategy that even their elite squads were caught in them. The whispers grew into fear, and in one shattered battlefield, among the ruins of a once-living city, an alien soldier survived when none of his comrades did. He alone crawled from the wreckage, his armor torn, his weapon gone, his mind fractured by what he had witnessed. He would live to tell the story, because humanity, for reasons he could not understand, chose to let him live. From the shadows, humanity was no longer fighting to survive. They were learning, studying, adapting faster than the Dominion could comprehend. Every attack, every occupation, every execution fed into a pattern, a silent evolution of war that was turning the species once mocked as weak into something unrecognizable. The galaxy had seen empires rise and fall. It had seen conquerors turn into prey. But never before had it seen a species so quick to transform, so relentless in its will, so willing to use pain as fuel. The invasion was supposed to be a brief, effortless campaign. Instead, it became something else entirely. To the alien survivor who would one day tell the tale, the truth became undeniable. Humans were not fragile. They were not fractured. They were something far worse. Something the galaxy was not ready to face. And as the Dominion pressed deeper into Earth's veins, they awoke something ancient in humanity's blood. Something that whispered across generations of struggle and survival. You may burn our world, but you will never break us. The stage was set. The war was no longer about conquest. It was about revelation. And the galaxy was about to learn a terrifying truth, delivered not by fleets or governments, but by the will of a species that refused to die. The Dominion had expected a quick conquest, but weeks turned into months. Earth did not collapse, it smoldered. The fleet commanders demanded faster results, driving their armies deeper into the planet's surface, spreading their control across continents. Yet with each push, the resistance grew sharper, harder to predict. At first, humanity fought with desperation, but desperation had hardened into strategy. Guerrilla strikes erupted in the ruins of cities the Dominion thought pacified. Supply lines vanished into flames. Entire battalions disappeared in jungles and mountains, ambushed by forces that seemed to melt back into the terrain. Still, the Dominion's might was overwhelming. Their war machines leveled cities in hours. Their orbital cannons burned through oceans to strike submarines hiding beneath. With every battle, humanity bled more than it struck. For every alien killed, 100 humans died. And yet, the humans never stopped coming. The Dominion's leadership grew impatient. From orbit, the Grand Command convened to discuss the human problem. Some demanded escalation, planetary cleansing, total annihilation. But others, cautious and calculating, urged patience. Earth, they argued, was valuable. Its resources, its strategic location, its potential as a conquered jewel, too precious to destroy outright. This division fractured the Dominion itself. In their arrogance, they failed to see what humanity saw instantly: weakness. If the invaders could not agree on a single path, then cracks were already forming in their unshakable empire. On Earth, politics fractured as well. Governments, already strained before the invasion, splintered under the weight of destruction. Some leaders demanded negotiations, desperate to preserve what little remained. Others called for absolute resistance, declaring surrender to be worse than extinction. Civilian populations caught in the crossfire looked not to governments for hope, but to the resistance cells rising from the ashes. In the chaos, betrayals spread like wildfire. Collaborators traded secrets for survival, offering Dominion commanders maps of resistance hideouts in exchange for food, shelter, or the illusion of safety. Yet even here, humanity's adaptability showed its hand. Many of those collaborators were not traitors at all, but bait, sacrificing themselves to lure Dominion forces into traps. The aliens never saw it coming. The war escalated. Dominion commanders, frustrated by the cost of every skirmish, unleashed new weapons, machines bred for terror, biological horrors meant to break the human will. In the ruins of London, soldiers faced drones that hunted heat signatures with surgical precision. In the deserts of Africa, massive war beasts, stitched together from alien engineering, thundered across the sands, scattering human fighters like insects. In the frozen north, Dominion shock troops marched without need for warmth, relentless against civilians hiding in the snow. Each horror struck with devastating effect. Cities burned, millions perished. And still, humanity adapted. The heat-seeking drones fell to smokescreens and decoys built from little more than scrap metal and old engines. The monstrous war beasts found themselves lured into ravines where improvised explosives turned terrain into a weapon. Shock troops discovered too late that snow itself could bury them, collapsing ice fields, swallowing entire platoons. Every weapon deployed against humanity was studied, broken down, and used against its creators. The Dominion believed it was grinding Earth into submission. Instead, it was teaching its enemy how to fight like no species had ever fought before. The alien survivor, the one who crawled free from a battlefield his comrades never left, watched these transformations in silence. To him, each human victory was not luck. It was something else, something terrifying, His superiors called it desperation. He knew better. Desperation burned out quickly. This was evolution, and it spread faster than fire. But within humanity itself, the strain was unbearable. Refugee camps overflowed, families fractured. Entire nations ceased to exist. Their governments nothing but dust. Some humans turned on each other, scavenging for food, killing for survival. Old wounds reopened. Political divisions, ethnic rivalries, and deep mistrust boiled over. To the Dominion, it looked as if humanity was finally unraveling. They were wrong again. Because in that chaos, new leaders emerged, not kings or presidents, but voices from the rubble. Soldiers who refused to leave civilians behind. Scientists who built weapons from scrap in underground labs. Ordinary people who discovered extraordinary strength when there was no one left to protect them but themselves. One name, then another, then hundreds more began to ripple across resistance networks. Not governments, not armies, but individuals who became symbols of defiance. Humanity had no central command, no unified banner. Yet somehow, through sheer will, it became something far stronger, a swarm of resilience, unpredictable, impossible to crush. The Dominion doubled down. Betrayals were encouraged, and rewards were promised to humans who delivered resistance leaders alive. Yet even betrayal turned against them. Captured leaders did not break under interrogation. Some even fed their captors false strategies, leading entire fleets into ambushes so perfectly timed they seemed orchestrated by something more than luck. Still, the odds were hopeless. The Dominion's fleets numbered in the thousands. Earth had only scraps. For every human victory, 10 new Dominion warships appeared in orbit. For every ambush, a city was erased in retaliation. The galaxy itself watched in silence, unwilling to intervene. To them, Earth's destruction was inevitable. And in a sense, they were right. Humanity was dying. Billions had already been lost. The survivors clung to life on a planet cracking beneath the weight of fire. But death alone was not enough to stop them. The Dominion had not come to destroy humanity, they had come to conquer it. And that was their fatal mistake. For every death, there was vengeance. For every fallen city, 100 new fighters rose from the ashes. For every betrayal, a counter-strike revealed a cunning no alien had expected. The survivor, who carried the weight of memory no Dominion commander wanted to hear, began to see what others refused to acknowledge. Humans were not fighting to win. They were fighting to endure no matter the cost. And in that endurance, something monstrous was being born. The hopeless odds did not weaken humanity. They refined it. And as the months bled into years, the galaxy's silent assumption began to fracture. The Dominion should have broken Earth long ago. Instead, the whispers among alien soldiers grew louder. Whispers of fear. Whispers of something unnatural. Whispers of an enemy that was not simply surviving, but becoming something new. Something the galaxy had never faced before. The Dominion had grown tired of waiting. What was meant to be a swift conquest had stretched into years of grinding attrition. Earth was still burning, yes, but not broken. Its people still fought in the shadows, striking at supply convoys, ambushing patrols, and sabotaging orbital relays. The Grand Command had had enough. They unleashed the Purge Protocol, a weapon reserved for species deemed unworthy of assimilation. Entire fleets massed in orbit, forming a wall of firepower the likes of which humanity had never seen. They would no longer conquer Earth, they would erase it. From above, the skies turned red. The Dominion's armada darkened the heavens, blotting out the stars. Their weapons were primed not to kill armies, but to strip oceans, crack continents, and burn the atmosphere itself into poison. It was annihilation, pure and final. On the ground, humans watched the skies waiting for death. Entire cities braced for impact. Resistance fighters whispered their final prayers. Parents held children close, promising survival they knew they could not guarantee. But in the shadows, humanity was not finished. For years beneath the Dominion's gaze, the survivors had been working in secret. Not on fleets or bombs, but on something far more dangerous. They had been learning. Every Dominion weapon captured, every device dismantled, every scrap of alien technology repurposed. Piece by piece, the Resistance had stitched together something impossible. It was not a fleet. It was not a superweapon. It was an idea crystallized into reality, to turn the Dominion's own strength against them. In bunkers deep beneath the ruins of Europe, scientists had discovered a flaw in the Dominion's shield matrix, a resonance hidden in their own technology, overlooked in their arrogance. Exploit it, and entire ships could be blinded, silenced, and made vulnerable. And now, as the Purge Protocol ignited, humanity's final gamble began. The signal was launched, not from sleek starships, but from gutted satellites, hijacked communication towers, and even jury-rigged cell towers powered by car batteries. A frequency raw and unstable pulsed through the skies. The Dominion's shields shuddered. Entire capital ships flickered with static. Their formation fractured, and then the ground itself struck back. Hidden beneath mountains, disguised as rubble, humanity's weapons awoke. Not alien super tech, but the twisted offspring of human cunning and stolen Dominion engineering. Railguns built from scavenged reactor cores, missiles guided by repurposed alien AI. Even crude space-borne drones, launched from converted oil rigs in the ocean, swarmed toward the crippled fleet above. The sky exploded. For the first time in the war, Dominion ships burned. Not just one or two, but dozens. Entire cruisers fell from orbit, carving fire across the horizon. Fleets scrambled, shields failing, weapons sputtering. On the ground, cheers erupted amid the chaos. For a moment, humanity saw something they had not felt in years. Hope. But hope is fragile. The Dominion retaliated with fury. Their ships that remained intact unleashed a storm of firepower, burning entire regions into glass. Millions perished in minutes. The Resistance's weapons were powerful but few. Humanity had struck a blow, but it was not enough to win. The purge continued. In a bunker somewhere in Asia, the signal's architect, a nameless scientist who had once been dismissed as a dreamer, stared at the readouts. The frequency worked, yes, but not at scale. The Dominion would adapt, recalibrate, and crush Earth before another strike could be launched, unless a new signal was transmitted. Not to Dominion ships, but to the Resistance itself. A message, short and simple. We cannot win by surviving. We must win by becoming the nightmare they fear. And then humanity revealed its final card. Across the world, in secret labs, captured Dominion soldiers had been studied. Not their weapons, but their minds. Neural patterns, communication methods, and coordination tactics. For years, humanity's scientists and engineers had mapped the Dominion not as conquerors, but as prey. And now, using stolen technology, humanity unleashed something the Dominion had never faced. A network. Not of machines, not of fleets, of humans. Resistance fighters, civilians, and leaders across continents suddenly moved as if of one mind. A web of signals linked them, crude but powerful, binding humanity's chaos into a single force. To the Dominion, it looked impossible. Billions of individuals, fractured and divided, suddenly striking with coordination as perfect as their own armies. The tide shifted. Ambushes erupted not in isolation, but in harmony. Sabotage on one continent mirrored assaults on another. Entire Dominion fleets found themselves funneled into traps spanning oceans. What had been scattered resistance became something terrifying, a hive of defiance, unpredictable yet unstoppable. The alien survivor, watching from the ruins, felt his blood run cold. This was no longer war. This was something worse. The Dominion had sought to break humanity's spirit. Instead, they had forced it into evolution. And in that evolution, the galaxy's most dangerous truth was revealed. Humanity was never meant to fight like other species. Their strength was not in fleets or weapons, but in their refusal to surrender and their ability to turn pain into fuel and chaos into strategy. For every Dominion ship that fell, another rose to take its place. But for every human that died, 10 more took up arms, moving as if driven by a single unbreakable will. The last stand had begun. Dominion commanders, once arrogant, now panicked. Their fleets scrambled and their communications faltered. And in the heart of the chaos, humanity struck its most ingenious blow. A resistance team, armed with stolen codes and the blood of countless fallen, breached the Dominion's orbital command ship. They did not go to destroy it. They went to hijack it. And in a move no alien could have imagined, they succeeded. From Earth's surface, humanity's stolen voice rang out through the Dominion's own channels, broadcasting not just across the fleet, but across the galaxy. A single message: we are not prey, we are the storm. The galaxy listened. In that moment, the Purge Protocol failed. The Dominion's fleet, fractured by sabotage, torn by betrayal, and crippled by humanity's ingenuity, began to fall. Not in victory, not in triumph, but in revelation. The survivor, standing amidst the ruins of his comrades, finally understood why he alone had been spared. Humanity had wanted someone to live, someone to remember, someone to carry the story into the stars. The truth was not that humans had survived the war. The truth was that they had become something the galaxy could never again ignore. And as the skies burned with falling ships and the earth trembled under the weight of survival, the climax of the war was not an end. It was a beginning. Because humanity had shown the galaxy the one thing more terrifying than death, the will to endure, no matter the odds. When the skies finally cleared, Earth was unrecognizable. The Dominion fleet, once an unshakable wall of power,